and we are live with Radio Free Transarctica. We got Aeon here. What would you like to go by? What handle would you like to use?
Aeon.
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 Okay.
Aeon.
Cool, man. I wrote this little blues thing for the Minneapolis riots. Well, Minneapolis is burning, Lloyd. Minneapolis is burning down. Minneapolis is burning, Lloyd. Minneapolis is burning down. 'Cause a policeman killed a man 'cause his skin was brown. People are fighting, Lord. They're fighting down in town. Well, they're fighting for their freedoms, Lord. For their freedoms down in town. Well, the bankers just know they don't want them protesters around. I say, Minneapolis is burning. Burning to the ground. Minneapolis is burning, Lord. Burning to the ground. Oh, well, there ain't no justice to be found. I like to open up my stuff with a little music, you know.
Is that off the cuff or what?
Yeah, that's just, you got to just make it up. That's what blues is about.
Yeah.
It's about making it up as you go,
Got a good jam.
Yeah. But yeah, that's the big news. But what is the big news that you want to focus on today?
Well, I guess since it's the hot topic right now, I might as well focus on Minneapolis and the happenings going on in the United States at the current moment. Like I was saying to you earlier in chat, this is one of the most conflicted moments in my life in terms of, which side do I choose? How do I act? Who do I support?
Mm-hmm.
How do I behave in this social, political climate? Because it's pretty touchy subject. You say the wrong thing, you present yourself in an incorrect or socially incorrect manner, and you face severe repercussions.
Yeah.
I just want to get the whole truth. That's my goal. That's my intent. I have no ill will towards anybody. I just seek the truth.
That's
no matter where that leads me.
That's exactly how I am as well. The seeking the truth is the most important aspect of what I do, and a lot of the problems that you run into come from people trying to obscure the truth. That's the majority of the alphabet agencies and things. They muddy the waters. That's their job. Their job is to make sure that no one but them knows what's going on. For sure. Like there's a bit of white noise or fuzz, that they put around. That's why they call them the fuzz. The fuzz.
Yes. Yeah, I never thought about that. Yeah, right now it's like adjusting the signal to noise ratio, or rather noise to signal ratio, so that the signal is drowned out by all the noise. Because with the internet, the advent of the internet, they can't just push a narrative and hope it goes through. They have to push all these other sub narratives or red herrings in order for their narrative to get through, so that people are distracted with uh, trivial matters or trivial conspiracies that don't get to the heart of the matter, but drown out the truth. And I think we're seeing a lot of that with the protests, a lot of that with the coronavirus, just a lot of that in 2020. Like, it's been amped up to the 11th degree.
Yeah, it's the thing that's worrying to me is that I've seen videos where they've caught police on camera loading off pallets of bricks. You know, that means they're trying to incite violence. They're hoping for it. They're like, I feel like they want to make they're trying to gaslight it. They're trying to gaslight the Civil War or whatever. But I don't feel like we need to fight the Civil War again. I feel like there's really nothing that we need to fight over, and why are we fighting? Like, there's no people's rights are being abused, and that's true, and we should take action on that. But in my opinion, the state of the country is not so bad that it needs a revolution.
No, we have a good foundation with the United States, and we're in a unique position in the world, with the Constitution. And right now, with especially media, I don't want to call it the leftist media, but media is by largely dominated by the left, especially social media. They trample over the Constitution and what the United States was built and founded upon, which is basically the right to self-govern, self-sovereignty, the right to make your own decisions, the right to defend yourself, the right to own land, the right to self-sustain yourself and your family and your neighbors and your community. And my whole political belief lies on a libertarian, I guess a right-wing libertarian view that if the individual isn't free, then the society can't be free. And right now, we're seeing individual rights being trampled on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What I am thinking about this as, I always try to look at the big picture as big as possible. So we don't want to get into like celestial politics, but when we talk about Earth politics, there's the Chinese are basically trying to do they're trying to instigate a revolution here by they've been sending counterfeit money over here, like large amounts of counterfeit American dollars, hoping to depress the market.
They're deflate the currency or inflate. I don't know what it would do.
Yeah, I guess it's inflating the currency.
Yeah.
Yeah. Their goal is just to destabilize the United States economically, because they're very, very intelligent people, the Chinese, and they've been fighting wars. They've been fighting very, very intelligent wars for a long time. Like, in the way that they fight, it's you want to sap them of their resources before you start fighting. You don't send your troops in. Like, that's not the first act of war. The first act of war is cyber terrorism, information warfare, ideological warfare, things like that. But the thing is that I even I like the Chinese. I feel like why do we need to fight them? Like why is it, why do people just keep wanting to fight? It's just constant. People just it's a human drive or something. It's the animal drive of the human being to want to fight or to struggle to survive. And
Something to do with like competition and dominance.
yeah,
I don't know. I don't like fighting, but there's always that instinct and drive.
I mean, it's worrying to me because the abusive powers that exist now, you know, it's like it's almost like no one gets into government unless they kind of have an abusive personality in some way. They
Sociopathic.
yeah, because they and I say this having gone into politics myself, but it's just like the it's crazy to think that like, hey, I'm gonna decide all this shit for you other people. I'm I'm good enough for that. That's the idea of the republic is that we would select people from our neighborhood to be, and then we would select a representative. Representative would go to meet the people at the city. The city, would meet together. It's we don't have a very functional republic, and it would be great if we did, though. It would be great if we did. I would love to see a functional republic in this country, but it's just not the truth, and it's not really a democracy either. It's a corporate oligarchy that yeah. I mean it's the seat of the White House seat is not a it's not like he's the ruler, even though everyone thinks that and everyone's like, oh, Trump, 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 Trump. It doesn't really have that much to do with Trump. It's Trump is not the biggest deal. Like he's not the biggest cat on the block walking in those rings up there.
Oh, heck no.
So that's what's so funny to me though is that people are like fucking Donald Trump. He does whatever he fucking wants and just
You get
wow.
Donald Trump out of office, the next person that replaces him, it's not going to be any better. Welcome the new boss, the same as the old boss. I
Yeah.
mean, those positions, they don't really shift power dramatically, and a lot of people don't see that. They get this tunnel vision, and they're slipped by bipartisan politics, and they think that if their side gets in, they're good for 8 years or whatever, and they don't have to worry about anything.
Yeah. I mean, that's a classic classic thing that they've been doing for a long time. Is basically to try to manage both the movement and also the counter movement. Do both. They learned it because of the Reformation of Christianity. When
Lutheranism?
that was a very hard lesson that they had to learn, but they learned basically that play both sides, play both sides because there's that's the way to profit, and that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to profit. So
So I just want to point out a caveat in regards to the political spectrum or the political nature of the United States in regards to it being a democracy or republic. A lot of people don't realize this, but we're a constitutional republic or democratic republic at best. We're not a democracy. We're not a full-blown democracy. And that's why people were upset when Trump won, because he lost the popular vote, but he won the electoral vote. And that's what a republic is. It's fair representation across all states, not just who has the highest concentration of people in the city or in the city center.
yeah,
So going back to China, and the actions going on in the world. Right now, like I'm a chess player first and foremost. That was my sport as a kid. I was good at it.
Oh, wow.
I
Cool.
excelled at it, and I think in terms of chess. I may not, act. I may not act like I think moves ahead, but I'm always seeing the geopolitical environment moves ahead. And when it comes to war, you have Sun Tzu,
Yeah.
The Art of War,
That's
and
that looks like a good addition too.
yeah, it's a pretty good addition. I got this along with the Tao Te Ching with them.
Yeah, I just recently went back to Sun Tzu's Art of War and I was reading it with a lot of the commentaries. So there's the thing about Sun Tzu's Art of War is that there are a myriad of commentaries on it, written by various generals throughout history, and so you can read all these different generals' viewpoints on what Sun Tzu said, if you can track him down, and it's fascinating. That's fascinating to me because a lot of the principles, when you're, when when I was studying it the other day, actually I was studying it when I was on the bus. When I came down on the bus from Portland to Reno, I was moving, and I was studying Sun Tzu's Art of War, and it struck me so blatantly right then that we've been at war. We've never not been at war. We're still at war. Like we're in a state of war right now. It's like since World War II, there's never really been a time when we were actually a peaceful nation, like that was normal. We were never a normal nation after that. We're not
No, we were always indefinitely at war. And as soon as the Soviet Union collapsed, what did the U.S. do? We immediately seized on the power vacuum, invaded the Middle East, seized the resources, and then created the doctrine on the war on terror, which its whole premise is to create an indefinite war. So the United States is actually in a war environment, a wartime scenario where.
I think the war on terror. The war on terror would be better phrased as a war of terror. It's
American terror.
Yeah, American terror. We're the terror. We're the terrorists. That's what people really need to understand, and people need to give Islam a bit of a chance. Read the Quran and stuff, and realize like, okay, these people are actually, they have a great foundation. They have great philosophers. They have a lot of great stuff that we could appreciate if we weren't such assholes. So I just think that we need to move away from that kind of terrorist thinking of Muslims as terrorists. Because we're really the ones terrorizing the world has been the United States for a long time. The British in the United States, and then there's other people who terrorize other people. But if you go to Costa Rica, nobody in Costa Rica is like oppressing anyone. They don't even have a standing army. They don't have an army at all.
Yeah, or Canada.
Literally all that we would need to do is say every citizen between the ages of 18 and 60 gets a rifle and a two-week firearm course. And there you go. Dismantle the military. Everyone as soon as they graduate high school does a 2-week firearm course, gets a rifle. Now you're a citizen. Here you go. This is your citizenship, is that you have the right to defend your land. And it's just like if they just knew that 330 million people had a rifle and were trained to use it, that's a lot. That's a lot more than, they can't. You really can't do any operations in that kind of environment. You could try, but you're gonna face heavy casualties, and so we might as well just do that, and then we, and pull out of everywhere else, because it's just a money sink. But they're doing it to make themselves rich, so because this
American, it doesn't benefit us that we're in Iraq and Afghanistan.
Well, what you really have to think is, what's happening with the tax dollars? What the money that's being spent, they don't care about that money. The public money they don't care about, because they're spending it to get some. They're spending it and putting it into private institutions. So, like Lockheed Martin or Northrop Grumman or BAE Systems or Raytheon or any of these big. These are big military contractors. They if they can transfer the public funds to the private side, then they can have their cake and eat it too. That's their game. That's their game. Is that they can live the high life and fuck everybody else, and if they want, and that's something that's very frustrating to me.
Well, they're using that all for their black budget projects or their black projects, right? I mean, if you look at some of these invoices or where they're spending their money on, like the taxpayers' dollars, I mean, they're spending $200 or $60 on the toilet paper dispenser or something so trivial that costs dollars and maybe even pennies to make, and they're marking it up on the invoice to hundreds of dollars, so that they can funnel that money into something more tangible. I don't think they're taking the money for themselves. I think they're using the money to actually develop black project technology that we don't ever see or we don't hear about.
Well, there's definitely that aspect, the breakaway civilization, like the Richard Dolan aspect of that. He's a great researcher that I've followed for a long time. And he and Joseph P. Farrell, they both have kind of a great grasp on the actual geopolitics that's going on. Because if you talk to someone and they don't know that the Nazis have a base in Antarctica, it's like, well, you're like 70 years behind, dude. There's so much stuff from World War II that people still don't know about, and it's being rolled out, gradually. That's part of what the Bilderberg Group was. The Bilderberg Group was a meeting of officials, the Prince Reinhard and or what was his Prince Gerhard with IG Farben. They were sitting down at the table with all of these German nationalized. They had nationalized their big economic companies, corporations like Cider Krupp and. They Heckler and Koch, something like that. They had the industry going, and they had a lot of money left over after the war. They had a lot of gold. They had a lot of gold going, and so the people needed to see what the how do we handle this gold, and how do we handle all these Nazis?
Like the Nazi gold, sometimes you'd find a sunken U-boat with a bunch of Nazi gold.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. they had a lot of gold. Well, they because they understood that, they understood what value is. They didn't want the debt-based bullshit currency that we have.
Yeah, physical, tangible asset.
Yeah, exactly. So when that was going on, they essentially were trying to smokescreen the escape of a lot of these Nazis to South America and Antarctica, and they after the war, those guys were working in NASA for the United States, and so they came like Werner von Braun.
Paperclip.
Yeah, Operation Paperclip is what it's called, and
Yeah.
and they've been the actual Nazis actually did infiltrate our government in a certain sense, and I feel like what's been going on has been a deep state Cold War, or like a cold civil war between two or more. There's maybe more than two factions of this like deep state counterbalancing act.
Deep state versus the breakaway, or is the deep state the breakaway?
Yeah, well, that's kind of the question. It's
Is the deep state just another level below the surface?
I think that there's definitely levels upon levels. I think that, basically nature just says that things continue forever in any direction. But I don't think that, I don't really know. And I'm hoping that some of the breakaway civilization technology will come back to us and help people.
It is.
I mean, it is. It has. That's why we have smartphones and things.
Fiber optics, transistor radios, the transistors in general. All our computer technology, which stemmed from fiber optics and transistors, which gave birth to the modern, digital era.
Mm-hmm.
And slowly been rolled out. I think right now we're seeing with the government and the Navy, like the Department of Defense just confirmed that the Nimitz UFO videos are real and are actual.
Right.
And they don't know what they are. Like they just say it's real. Our pilots caught this on camera. They were bogey and they engaged them, etc., etc. So I don't think those are aliens. In my opinion, I think that's the U.S. government coming out and softly disclosing black budget technology that they have in order to start prepping the public for future releases and uses of the technology. And also probably as a covert flex against, say, powerhouses like China and Russia, who may be getting a little testy with the United States right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm actually thinking that Russia and China look like they're butting heads a bit too.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, it's classically always been, the U.S. versus Russia, but people forget how deep-seated the United States and the United States and China conflict has been. And Russia and China, I'm not quite sure what their conflict is right now, but I've heard they're butting heads. I don't know if it's territorial dispute or what, but I know Russia doesn't want to play partners with China. And I actually think Russia and the United States are more in alignment than people realize.
Yeah, I think that, we're very similar in a lot of ways.
Technically, yeah.
We're kind of, but, and that's, we have a natural balance, you know, and that's, if you think about it like a scale, you can think that Russia and the United States are like the two pans of a scale, and then what the thing that slides at the top to adjust the tilt, that's China. Like you move China back and forth between Russia and the United States in order to try to shift the balance of power. But it's all this balancing act, that because no one wants to commit suicide for the whole world, or I mean, I guess maybe someone does, but I don't, and I would rather not have that happen. And of course, there's even videos of that UFO that when they fired that rocket and it went and it disabled the warhead.
Yeah, you could see it. It literally zaps it.
Yeah, yeah. That's like
the launch.
It's like what more do people need to?
So quick, yeah.
It's so funny that the Navy came out and was like, yeah, these UFO videos are real, and then everyone was just like, yeah, we all fucking knew that. We all knew it was real already. We already knew that.
What was it? Last September or summer, they wanted to freaking storm Area 51, and everybody forgot about that. Remember the huge storm Area 51? That's because public pressure is reaching a tipping point, and the government has to release the pressure valve in regards to UFOs and aliens and secret technology that they're keeping away from the public, because everybody knows that there's UFOs. Mm-hmm. People speculate that they're aliens, but I'm not too convinced that what we're seeing are necessarily aliens. They're just, things that we're not aware of. There's secrets that we're not aware of. And the government had to release that pressure valve, maybe because of the movement to storm Area 51. Maybe that's why they confirmed the Nimitz videos, for example.
Yeah.
There's a movement to, get this information and technology out to the public, whether it's from the public itself or from intelligence agencies themselves. It's like a mix of both. Well,
that's kind of like the work of Dr. Stephen Greer. I don't know. I've never met the man. I've never shook his hand. He's very knowledgeable and he seems genuine. He almost seems like a reptilian to me. But that
was my first instinct on the guy, was that this guy's covering up some shit, and he is a deep state actor, and friggin', if there's a reptilian, the guy looks like a reptilian in a bodysuit.
Yeah. So that's kind of what I feel like. I kind of feel like Dr. Stephen Greer might actually just be a reptilian alien in a human body.
Yeah.
But he's
I find it suspicious because, he says there's only good aliens. They're all good. There's no bad aliens anywhere in the universe or galaxy. And, I extrapolate through, the principle of as above, so below. Well, if we have different, parties and conflicts here on Earth, why won't there be on a galactic or universal scale? I mean, take the Earth ecozone and put that up into an infinite space. You're telling me there's no conflicts going on there with higher civilizations? I don't believe that they're necessarily all good, or maybe they can't even be defined as good or bad as we view it. But to say that they're all good, it just seems a little whitewashing.
Yeah. I know what you mean. It's very strange in a lot of ways that, Dr. Stephen Greer had a lot of great people work with him, and he had a lot of great credentials attached to him. But he definitely for sure, like he admits it, I think, that he was working for the government. Like he went to the White House and briefed the president on UFOs. Like,
I don't know, was that real or what? Like, did he actually go and brief all these heads of states or what?
I don't know. I don't know if he does or not. But I'd like to meet Dr. Stephen Greer. So if you ever see this Dr. Stephen Greer, give me a call. I mean, I guess I always thought you were kind of a dickhead, but I do like you, and I would like to listen to you in person. That's that's what I always would say about David Wilcock too. Is
he's like a character. He reminds me of David Spade.
You know, it's like I know that there are people that I would really like to hang around with. It would be just a super great time. We could talk about anything. You know, it's like it would be fun. But David Wilcock, just he's right a lot, but he goes off on these tangents that I just don't really think are relevant sometimes.
He knows a lot of stuff. He knows a lot of shit. What gets me though is that he says, like, when I first came upon him years ago, back in the 2000s, he was all about like prophecies and prophesizing, and he kept saying that he was the reincarnation of Edgar Cayce.
Yeah. Right.
Which, because Edgar Cayce said that he would be reincarnated at a certain point after his death, and Wilcock kind of just jumped in on that. Like, he may be, he may not be, I don't know, but that's a pretty bold claim.
Yeah, I mean, I could say my name's Alexander. I'm the reincarnation of Alexander the Great, and I was also the doubting disciple Thomas, because that's my middle name. My middle name is Thomas, so I was the doubting disciple. Thomas, yeah. So there you go. I was with Jesus, and I was with Well, it's easy to say. There's connections in names. Names have meanings, and they have identification. So it's like when someone had a name a long time ago, and you have that name today, those times are connected by that vibration. There's a harmony. There's a harmonic, like an overtone series almost, that's happening.
Let's see. Does that still happen when the language changes? Like when the words change and maybe the pronunciation? I guess the pronunciation might stay the same. Not always, though. I wonder how that works.
I mean, for Alexander, I know that like in Russia it's still Alexander, and they would, in Turkey it's like Iskender, which is much shortened, very lazy way to say it, Iskender.
Icelander.
But or Alexander or Alexandre, in different languages it's different, but it's the same. And it all means the same. It's all from French, not from French. It's all from Greek, and it means the defender of man. Defender of man is the name Alexander. But
yeah, I guess I could. I'll say, my name is Troy, which is another Greek name, and it means soldier or foot soldier. Soldier, I'm pretty sure, comes from Greek. And it relates to the ancient city of Troy, which was Greek as well. Or at least it was, I don't know if it was officially part of the Greeks. It wasn't a Greek state, but it was right there in the Peloponnesian.
It was on the Aegean Sea. It's Troy. Troy was on Anatolia, so it was on the Turkish side. What's today the Turkish side?
Yeah. It's actually, I'm not sure if it's a Greek or Turkey name. I know it's common in both cultures. So, because I have a good friend of mine that's from Turkey, and he would always tell me about my name and its meaning. And you say it's Turkish, or I think it's Greek. I'm not sure exactly. Cultures.
Well, they have butted up against each other for a long time, So that's a very interesting history, actually, between the Turks and the Greeks, and the Turkish invasion. Basically, it was an extension of like Genghis Khan's invasion. The Turks were part of the Mongol horde, and they but they ended up converting to Islam and going through the Caucasus, and then they kind of came and pushed through Anatolia, and it was it's just kind of a really fascinating history. But have you tell me a little bit about some of the UFOs you've been seeing lately?
Yeah, so people who know me and people who intimately know me will know that that's what I'm about crazy shit, UFOs, um, other avenues of thought. But I've been seeing, I swear to God, I've been seeing UFOs pretty consistently since 2007. And, it started off with, looking at the stars in a night sky and just seeing like stars wiggle or certain stars move around a little bit that they shouldn't.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what caught my eye. So I started paying attention to the sky, and then I started seeing what appeared to be like shooting stars, maybe some satellites, and nothing that really confirmed UFOs to me or anything that I could say was a UFO until it would be May of 2008. It was during the Electronic Music Festival in Detroit, the Detroit Electronic Music Festival, which I wasn't able to attend that year. But I was at a friend's backyard, and we're in close proximity and could hear the music, pumping bass.
Mm-hmm.
And we were out in the backyard, and I was with a group of friends. And I look up, and I'm always pointing out shit in the sky to my friends, and they're getting fed up with me, thinking I'm crazy and shit. And I swear to God, I see this. There was like an oblong rectangle, maybe. I want to say it's more of a cigar now that I think about it. Shape in the sky. It was pointing. It was sitting in the east. Yeah, so eastern Detroit area, facing the Movement Festival. And anyways, along the craft, there's a sequence of lights going red, green, blue, white, red, green, blue, white, just like this, right? Maybe even some yellow in there. I don't know exact colors, but it was just flashing colors in a sequence, like you'd see on a sequencer or a sequence of colors in any kind of media. And I was like, that's freaking weird. So I point to my friends, and they didn't look at first. So I go, what are you talking about? Blah, blah, blah. I'm like, no, you got to look at this. Look at this. So they look up, and they're like, holy shit, you're right. And I'm like, yeah. And we all stared at it for a second, and all of a sudden, boom, gone. And they're like, whoa. And we didn't even talk about it after that. I think everybody was so shocked. So
it is very shocking when you see it, because I had not seen for a very long time. I had not seen UFOs. I thought I saw one as a kid. I saw a star and that blinked out.
Yeah.
And I thought, whoa, that's a UFO, and that set me off on my UFO adventures as a kid because I was convinced I saw a UFO, but I have no idea what I actually saw because I was a child and my memories are not perfect about that. But when, like, for the rest of my life, I was like searching for them, always looking at the sky. I was always like laying out at night, looking at the stars, would lay out on the porch and look at the stars to try to like watch, comets or try to catch a UFO. Was what I was really hoping for. That was my deep down, my wish was to catch a UFO because my dad was working for Lockheed Martin. Yeah, he worked as an aeronautics engineer for Lockheed Martin when I was a child, and I think they were working out of Beale Air Force Base, but they were pretty close to. We were pretty close to Area 51 in terms of. Relatively close. We were relatively close to Area 51, and he often went on long, like week-long or 2-week-long business trips. Where he had to go and like be in a secret environment.
Like
So
probably shuttled away, right?
yeah, it's so he never talked much about the details of that, but he did say he did tell me before he died that he believed that he had a friend who was the guy who owned the patent on fiber optics, and and his fiber optics were actually from a crashed alien craft. Were reverse engineered from a crashed extraterrestrial vehicle.
You said that?
Yeah, that's what my father said.
Yeah, see, that's what I heard. That fiber optics were from recovered craft, whether it was extraterrestrial or discovered from an ancient civilization. I don't know.
Hmm. Yeah, I. It's definitely. It's very very interesting. All of the ways that you can look at the UFO issue, because UFOs in general, are looked at in basically three ways. One of three ways. They're either, well, four ways maybe. The fourth way is non-existent. They don't exist at all. But that one's out the door for me because they clearly do exist. And unidentified flying objects clearly exist. They
Could be anything. Yeah.
It's just that what the nature of them is the question. So the primary three explanations are that they're ours, that they're an aliens, or that they're interdimensional or spiritual beings, like angels, you know.
Yeah.
And I lean. I'm somewhere between two and three, the two and three there. You know, if there was a scale, the UFO scale, and this was like the most mundane, and this is the most like out there shit. I'm probably right there. Yeah.
So like between like physical aliens and interdimensional non-corporeal beings.
Yeah.
That's that's what I wonder as well. If we think, if say these are aliens or extra human intelligence or extra dimensional beings, I mean, anything they do is going to look like magic to us. But magic is really just technology, I guess. Like high technology and magic, they're indistinguishable. So if they are interdimensional beings and they're manifesting in our reality and they're using light or matter as the technology and they're able to warp matter around it,
Mm-hmm.
through anti-gravity or whatever propulsion system they're using, uh, that would be somewhat immaterial, could appear immaterial to us, like a quicksilver type thing, or it's in between physical matter and something that we're not quite able to perceive yet. Perceive,
Mm-hmm.
I would say, because the latest UFO I saw, and which I captured on video, which I've shown people, and even they can't really deny what it is. That I don't know what it is, but they know it's a UFO, and I know it's a UFO. And this thing, like I don't know if it's physical, immaterial, non-corporeal, or an actual craft with humans inside. I don't think humans could survive the movements it was doing. And when I perceived this craft, it was just like a white orb, and it was going across the Detroit skyline, and I'm looking out the window, and as soon as I noticed it, I'm like, is that a UFO? It friggin' stops. And it starts doing, I guess, acrobatics. Like it starts doing these moves and maneuvers and like zipping across the sky. And the way it would move, it would look like it would skip across the sky. Like it wasn't going in a straight line. It would be like jumping. It was like jumping from place to place. And it shapeshifted from a circular or oval orb into like a dagger-like shape. Is what I want to say, like a lightning bolt maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Like it literally shifted its form and it seemed to warp the light or matter around it to the point where my eyes could not perceive its movement. It was so friggin' fast. that I've never seen anything like this in my life. This was a profound, maybe the most profound event I've ever experienced, and it shook me to the core, and I'm still shook because I don't know what it was. I've never seen something like this. To me, it looked like magic, and I just don't see how humans could survive that kind of momentum. So I don't know. Maybe that was an interdimensional craft.
Yeah, I well, there in the Bible and in various ancient texts, there are accounts of flying vehicles or chariots of the gods, or often they're called chariots, but basically there's some kind of vehicle that entities like angels are using. The fact that they're depicted with wings is just meant to show that they have the power of flight. But it doesn't actually, they don't actually have wings. They just they look exactly like humans.
What's the best symbolism that we could represent at the time to explain what it was? You know, like birds fly, birds have wings. These beings fly, so put wings on them.
Yeah, yeah. So they were like, these are flying people, so they're winged people. You know, they fly and they people and they so it's like if someone explains it to someone else, it's like immediately they would think, so they have like wings or something. You know, that's just the most natural human Earth thing to think. But
I'm of the belief that religious. I think modern academia discards the Bible and religious texts entirely as being non-historical texts, and I think that's a big mistake. Perhaps the stories aren't literal, but I'm pretty positive that the accounts in the Bible, the accounts in various religious texts throughout the world, they're just the best recordings of what happened at the time. And the people try to explain them to the best of their understanding with the words and knowledge they had. So today we can look back on it and we can start applying the knowledge we have from technology and from going to space and stuff like that and putting things together, and we can extrapolate what they were really trying to imply. And this is where things like ancient aliens come from.
mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the ancient aliens thing, like that, people make fun of that TV series, but actually it was a great TV series. It was fun. It was fun to watch. Some of the stuff in there was like not the best material in the world, and not the best, maybe not the most credible speakers in the world, and et cetera, et cetera. But they,
or whatever the heck his name is.
What was it?
George.
Oh, Georgios Tsoukalos.
Yeah, Superless or whatever.
Yeah, I'd like to high five that guy. I'd buy him a beer. You know, like the
David Childress.
What was that?
You hear David Childress, that guy?
Oh yeah, David Childress.
Yeah, I'd like to meet.
Yeah, there's actually a lot of the guys that were on that show, you know, but for me, I think Graham Hancock is one of the top ones that I would like to meet, because Graham Hancock just like he's just a knowledge fountain, you know, when it comes to the stuff that he's researched and done, because he's gone out and done it, and that's what I intend to do. I just don't have the funds to do it yet. So when if I had money, let's say, if someone was to give me $1 million by watching this, they donate me $1 million in Bitcoin, then I'm manifesting this reality. It's going to happen. Woo! Yeah. And so the if someone gave me like that money, then what I would spend it on, it would be flying around the world and filming or getting photographic evidence of different archaeological sites, and really doing some really doing the archaeological work that needs to be done for this alternative theory, and documenting it like on a podcast or like I would just be video blog. That's like basically that's my dream. If I would, my dream is to kind of do that.
Theory, like alternative archaeology.
Yeah, the problem, the field of archaeology is unfortunately it's a difficult field because if you don't have the money, you don't get any money unless you play the game that they want you to play. And there are certain things that get covered up and actually do get covered up. Like there was a whole temple underneath the temple at Luxor, in Egypt, and Zahi Hawass would not. The temple of Seti, I believe it's the temple of Seti, is beneath the temple of Luxor, but like Zahi Hawass was the minister of archaeological affairs or something, like minister of antiquities. I forget what his title was, but Zahi Hawass was an Egyptian man who just restricted the heck out of Egyptologists trying to study actual Egypt, because they want to sell you a story about Egypt, and they don't want you to know the real history of Egypt.
Yeah, just like the pyramids in China. China's covering them up because they're probably the oldest pyramids in the world, and they contradict the Chinese narrative that they were the first inhabitants of the land or whatever.
Yeah,
they just cover it up. It doesn't suit them.
Yeah, I've always wondered about that. And there's also that pyramid in. What do you think about that pyramid in Bosnia?
I don't know. Like it looks like a pyramid to me if I've ever seen one. There's supposedly an underground tunnel network that was discovered, but Bosnia and modern archaeologists, they're claiming that it's not a pyramid, they're not touching it, and Bosnia shut off funding for research.
You know what? I think that stuff is definitely. I think they are pyramids. I think they're just built. Like they can build them with different ways. Aw, cute cat.
Sure, kitty wants on the screen.
It's the mound builders in North America are a good example of people that just basically made dirt mounds, and so some of these things like that, maybe people did make them a pyramid, or maybe they carved a mountain to, like they specifically tried to make the mountain look more symmetrical and more like designed. They were trying to chisel it out or something. It was just a thing of interest to them. Ancient people they could have done a lot of things, and I think that we're probably not I think we're probably not the first civilization that reached this level of technology on the Earth. Because when you read about the Tower of Babel in the Bible, Babel in the Babel.
Babylon.
Yeah. It's one of the. I was talking with a Hasidic rabbi about Kabbalah and about some of the meanings of the Tower of Babel, and I said, what is the meaning of building a tower to heaven? And he said, it means they were building a space station.
Yeah.
That's that.
Because heaven is the skies, right?
Basically what's going on is that our world is quarantined or cordoned off. Like it's a wildlife preserve.
Yeah, nature reserve.
Yeah, we live in a wildlife preserve, but they do whatever they want in the rest of the solar system, like with Jupiter and Saturn and all that. They harvest valuable gases. They mine the asteroid belt. and stuff like that. This is as far as I've been able to gather, and then to some extent our own military. I don't know what level that breakaway civilization is really at, because they broke off at right around World War II, and basically they just kept going. And who knows? Like they could be a lot more advanced than us.
Well, if you think of it, they had, flying saucers in, going far back as, if you look into things like the flying machines of the 1800s. I mean, we're talking 1800s, not even the 1900s. So, the middle to end of the 1800s, there's a huge technological race in the United States to develop flying airships, flying machines. And typically an airship would be like a Zeppelin or something, or they're using balloons and temperature to propel themselves into the air and atmosphere. But there was other weird designs that started resembling like egg shapes and saucers, and a lot of that was developed by German groups, and they called them the NIMSA Society or the NIMSA Group.
Yeah, this is Walter Bosley, right?
Yeah. Walter Bosley talks about it, and so this group, they had some kind of conflict with, I want to say it was J.P. Morgan, whatever the big oil investor that screwed over Tesla with funding and all that. It was that same guy who screwed over Tesla. There's a conflict with these German people, and they left the United States, took all their patents and technology to Germany, and also I think South America, and started developing saucer and unconventional aircraft throughout the rest of the 1900s. So by the time World War II started, the Nazis, the Germans, they probably already had these plans in development. So by 1942, 43, you start seeing these saucers, you start hearing the reports of American bomber pilots seeing Foo Fighters and lights in the sky that would come and go and were faster than any of the other airplanes. And they can describe what it was. And then that civilization broke away from our civilization and just took that technology and friggin', flew off with it, literally.
Yeah. I think that it's very interesting to think about the kind of they had a lot of projects that seemed like they were aiming at time travel, anti-gravity type of stuff, manipulating space-time with torsion physics, and utilizing torsion fields. So they were using, in the Diglocka project or the Bell project, they used counter-rotating cylinders containing supposedly a red isotope of mercury that was very heavy.
Wasn't that didn't they end up taking that, and I think they tried reverse engineering it and it ended up turning into the Kecksburg UFO incident? They had crashed, fell, shaped.
I mean, I think that may be what Kecksburg was. Kecksburg was a very strange incident, especially because so many people so many people were witnesses of Kecksburg, and the Lord Admiral Hill Norton, he said that either it was mass hysteria or it was real. So it's like, I just don't really believe that it's mass hysteria about nothing.
I don't think it's mass hysteria. That's like, what was it? The Fatima incident?
Oh yeah. The miracles, miracle of Fatima. The miracle of the sun specifically it was in, I think, 1917 in Portugal, and the three young children, they talked to one another, and they ended up in a they were going out and they met a strange lady in a cave, but she was like draped in white clothes, and the description was very strange. I remember, but she gave them prophecies, I guess, and she said like this will happen this day and this will happen this day, and so these children prophesied that there was going to be a miracle of the sun on a certain day, and on that day, tens of thousands of people gathered. Like there was like 70,000 people there, 60 or 70,000 people, and so it was a massive gathering, and what happened was they said that it looked like the sun descended. The sun descended to the earth, and so they were, I don't know.
Sun descended to the earth.
Yeah.
It's an interesting descriptor. It's like a ball of light. I don't know, star like that. The UFO I recently saw. I wanted get an inkling that the white light of it was so pure and energetic that I want to say it looked like a mini sun. The light from it was like a mini sun or a mini star. It had that power.
Mm-hmm. I'm not certain what happened at the miracle of the sun, but it just seems like it must have been something, because it's a big deal in the Catholic Church. The miracles at Fatima and the miracle of the sun in particular seem to indicate a kind of spiritual UFO. That's what we were talking about there. That's the spiritual explanation of UFOs that is related also to the idea of I'm sorry, I've been up for we're recording this because we're both insomniacs tonight.
I have insomnia. I wasn't able to sleep tonight at all, and now I'm having some green tea, and I went for a nice walk in the sun. Hopefully reset my circadian rhythm. Yeah, I know you get brain farts when you don't have sleep. One night of no sleep, you start forgetting where regular things are. You start walking down the wrong direction accidentally.
That's what I think people don't understand about like how people get so trashed by abusing meth. It's because they don't sleep normally anymore after they start using amphetamines or methamphetamines. Their sleep cycles are fucked. So it really sends them downhill.
Well, that's where the psychosis on the amphetamines come from. Because people are up for 5, 7. I've heard people up for 2 weeks, even a month straight.
Oh yeah.
That's inhuman, and so you can see why the Nazis used it for their blitzkrieg, friggin' pumping their soldiers full of meth. It's really a wartime production drug. Like, you want something?
I feel like in wartime it would be great. It would be perfect.
Initially.
But the thing is that it's not, if it's not wartime, you shouldn't be doing any meth anyway.
No, it's not. It's not good. But yeah, the psychosis, I think, half of it is from the not sleeping. You stay up for 1 day, you're feeling it. You stay up for 2-3 days sober,
mm-hmm.
You're gonna start seeing shit, maybe hearing shit.
Yeah, definitely. Actually, I've stayed up for, I think the max I've stayed up for is like 3 days, and and by the end of that, I was like, just like tripping, like tripping on nothing. Like I wasn't on any drugs at all, and I was just couldn't, like there was shadows walking, and
yeah, shadow people and
yeah.
shadow, and that's what I want to touch on, the subject that I'm really passionate about is Tibetan Buddhism. My dad kind of raised me up with that as my foundation was Tibetan Buddhism and Rosicrucianism.
Mm-hmm.
So the Tibetan Buddhists, I mean, there's a lot of freaking crazy stories about the Tibetan monks, some of the feats that they can do,
Oh yeah,
and
yeah.
uh, and the abilities that they have that Westerners we don't really know on surface level stuff that the CIA have been experimenting with what is it, Project Stargate and remote viewing.
Oh yeah,
Um,
yeah.
this kind of confirms the stories that I read and heard from the Tibetan monks as a kid or when I was a teenager. Is that they'd be having telepathic conferences in their minds, meeting with different monks across worlds or across lands, maybe even worlds. I don't know, but basically using remote viewing and projecting as a means to communicate. So, anyways, there's this practice that they would do that's called tempo sleep, and it's a meditation, and apparently it's the deepest meditative practice that they do. And they literally take the monk, they take him into a cavern or a cave or a temple where they have a sarcophagus
Mm-hmm.
or like a tomb, and the monk fasts, doesn't eat, doesn't sleep. The monk will go into the tomb, they'll place the cover over it, and I'm not sure how long the monk would stay there 3 days, 7 days, maybe even longer. But basically, to the point of near death, the monk would stay there meditating, and the monk would straight up just leave his body and travel the astral realm or other metaphysical worlds,
Right.
and then come back.
That's yeah. I mean, ancient people knew about doing that. That's something that I kind of rediscovered for myself. I everyone can go through that process, but
Yeah,
yeah, sensory deprivation as a way to. So sensory deprivation tanks are
yeah.
also people use them for
Well, that's basically what it is.
yeah. You use them for astral projection or whatever.
Yeah,
So
if you get to that level, I think a lot of people don't. They just, I guess, it could be pretty. I heard it's a spooky experience. I've never experienced it. I would love to experience it. I've heard people going into those tanks on full blown acid and TNT and all this crazy shit. I don't know how they could do that, but
oh yeah. Well, I would love to have a tank just in my house. You know, just so I could just do it at my own leisure and also feel safe because I'm not at someone else's mercy.
yeah,
There's some anxieties that will come along with that, especially when I having having had some threats made to me regarding my political beliefs and things like that. Uh,
go back when you're campaigning, eh?
yeah, yeah. Well, that it's just like, well, if there is someone who's trying to get to you, that would be a good time.
Sensory deprivation tank.
Yeah,
But,
they could put you on a tractor trailer to Arkansas, and you'd never be seen again. They could just
Arkansas Mafia takes you.
yeah, Arkansas Mafia, dude, definitely.
Yeah, Arkansas Mafia, right? Mm-hmm. So
Yeah.
yeah, you got something to say?
No, go ahead.
So I wanted to touch back on the archaeology topic. So I've been thinking about what I want to do with my life and what career I should follow. Because I'm approaching middle age, and I haven't really made a solid decision. I have so many interests. I would
Hmm.
say I'm well read. Um, I just don't know what direction to go in. But I've always thought that anthropology would be something good, something like you're saying with archaeology and what Graham Hancock is doing. but more so on the anthropological side than archaeological, just to see where, how the archaeological side connects with the human side, what parts of humanity came from where, like putting those pieces together. But when it comes to ancient archaeology or forbidden history, I guess the topic would be forbidden history, covered up alternative archaeology that the mainstream doesn't want the public to know because it would just uproot or upend their entire modern academic narrative. Um, there's this one YouTuber I like to listen to. He's called Wise Up, and he's all about the mud fossils. And the mud fossils is like a pretty big rabbit hole that you can fall into, or sink into rather. Uh, Basically, what we see as what appears as natural formations of Earth, like maybe some mountains, um, are really fossilization. Is fossilization of prehistoric civilization. So the theory is that we had a flood or multiple floods throughout the history of the Earth, and sometimes in a massive flood, these floods would bring all kinds of mud across the land and just cover swaths of mud. And over time, the mud and water would fossilize the prehistoric buildings and architecture and even people. Like there's mounds of fossils that look like actual beings captured in a flood and preserved. In modern archaeology, they don't touch on this at all. So I wonder how deep it goes. Like how far back the ancient civilizations really go. Like how many floods have we gone through? How many civilization resets?
Yeah, that's a good question, and I don't have an answer. But in Hinduism, they definitely believe that there are different ages of the world, and that it's a continual cycle that goes on infinitely. You know,
You guys, right?
that's what I believe. I think that it's true that it's like there's a cycle that continues infinitely, and it's like maybe I would love for us to become a spacefaring race. I would love for us to do that, but there's there's definitely a great limiter. Like you get people like races get to the point where they have the power to kill themselves before they have the spiritual maturity to to not kill themselves. Sometimes. So
Well, I think that's part of why we're not getting that technology from the breakaway civilization or from the deep state or black budget projects, whatever you want to call it. Because we're really not a responsible civilization. We're not a responsible race. We're not a responsible people. I'm barely responsible. I'm not. I won't even say I'm responsible for myself. So, you know,
yeah,
handling some of these higher technologies, it can definitely be devastating, not just to ourselves and planet, but to other planets.
that's true. That is true. I mean, it's like if you had the power to have infinite energy from 0 point energy fields. Um,
Somebody's going to weaponize it.
yeah,
You
there's
know,
someone's gonna try. Someone's gonna want to, because there's just that one asshole out there, just that one douchebag who's just gonna do it. It's like, um, but the thing is why do people go along with these guys? Why do people go along with it? Why do we go along with any of this shit? Like when they were invading Iraq and Afghanistan, why did we go along with that? Like why didn't we say like, hey, wait, why are you invading them again? Because they didn't have why are you invading Iraq? They didn't have anything to do with the 9/11 and
I remember there was really no contention with Afghanistan, but once the United States turned its eye on Iraq, I remember there was a lot of political debate and some protests and marches all across the world for going into Iraq. So there was always a little iffy on that, but we
Yeah.
didn't do it.
Well, I mean, 9/11 was an inside job. That's the answer to the question, and that they had a plan all along, and everyone has they.
Yeah, see, this is what I try to explain to some people, and what I was trying to get at earlier with talking about chess is that the world, people don't realize that we're on a chessboard, or the world is a grand stage. It's it's a freaking chess match between multiple players. It's where this 4D, 5D, 6D, 14D chess comes in, because
Yeah.
it really is happening on multiple levels. And the thing is, most people don't even realize that there is a game of chess being played. They definitely don't realize that they're on the board or that they're a piece. All they see are moves, individual moves, and they isolate those moves without relating them to other pieces on the board, without relating them to other players on the board, and definitely without projecting moves ahead. And to win in chess, the best chess player is, or the one who wins chess is the one who sees farthest ahead. The great grandmasters of chess, they can win a game without even touching a piece, because they freaking calculate it all in their head. And so I try to explain to these people, with events like Corona and now these riots, and they're the moves being played on the board. They're not isolated events. Everything is connected. You can connect all these events going all the way back to World War II and farther beyond that. So 9/11 was, it was just another move on the chessboard. If you really watch it, it's like, taking the queen or something, or sacrificing the bishop. That's my analogy of it, anyways.
Yeah. I think I think that you have a pretty good pretty good grasp on it. I mean, there's a lot going on, and a lot of it comes down to like things that are not even visible to us, like and I'm not talking about supernatural things. I'm talking about like the city of London. The city of London is just out of the public eye. There's no cameras there. I think they don't even allow them inside, maybe, or maybe they do. I don't know. But the city of London, like they don't. Not the big city of London. I'm saying this for the viewers. There is a city of London proper, which is a walled city, and even the Queen has to ask permission of the guilds, of the merchant guilds, in order to enter. Yeah. So
Yeah, it's like a small city within the city, and
yeah,
it's not even under the sovereignty of London or the UK. It's a nation state. These are like nation states, and there's three heads throughout the world. There's a city of London, which is a financial center. There's Vatican City, which is the religious center, and there's Washington, D.C., which is the military center. These effectively form New Rome, or Pax Romana, or whatever you want to call it, the Anglo-Saxon Empire.
yeah. I mean,
City-states unto themselves, like they're literally states within states that don't have to abide by the country they're in, which is such a misnomer to me. I don't know how we allow it to exist.
yeah. It's kind of interesting. It's very interesting, in fact. They just that they have such special treatment. You know.
Yeah, for themselves, right? The elite.
Yeah, like and the Vatican, like the Vatican City. Vatican City is its own thing, so there's no banking laws. The Vatican Bank does whatever the Vatican Bank sets the laws as. You know, that's so. Well, when people are talking about the Vatican Bank, there's a lot of money in that bank. There's a lot of money in that bank, man. You know.
Yeah, they have a lot of treasures in the Vatican archives, the Vatican Library.
Oh yeah. I that has been like if I had that's one of my three wishes scenarios. If I was like, I might just ask for every document in the Vatican archives on a USB thumb drive or something like that. You know.
I don't even think we have. I guess we did. Yeah, we have the data storage now. We could probably do it.
Yeah, but I would love to go through the Vatican archives. They have so much stuff that they have all of the communications between the European rulers and the Pope. So all through history, like they have all of the letters that were written between the popes and the princes and kings and queens of Europe, and you know that's that's pretty incredible stuff. Like there, you could discover so much. There's a lot more.
So not just religious texts. They're not just either like political communiques, correspondences,
Yeah.
rulers, and papacy or what? That's the Pope. Papacy. Papacy, is that what his little congregation is called? Papacy, papacy.
What do you what?
You know the papacy,
Oh, oh
papacy.
yeah, yeah, yeah. The papacy.
That's
Yeah,
like what the congregation surrounding the Pope, right?
yeah.
So, or the whole government of the Catholic Church,
Hmm.
whatever. I guess that's what it's called. I don't know. But like it's a Roman Catholic Church. It's effectively the extension of the Roman Empire, and I'm of the opinion that the Roman Empire never really died; it just changed form.
It just
So
changed
when
into it actually it transcended. It's like it went up a level, so it became a church instead
yeah,
of a like
government,
it became so high that it became a religion
yeah,
instead of a anything else. You know.
it transcends government. Religion transcends government. So that's pretty crazy to think of. Yeah, but if you look back in the history of Rome, everybody thinks that Rome fell when the actual city of Rome fell to the barbarian hordes. But that's not true at all. Rome moved into Constantinople in the east, and it became the Eastern Catholic Roman Empire, I think, or I can't remember what they specifically called themselves, but they were the other half of the Roman Empire that didn't fall to the Western horde. And I think then they went through the Crusades and eventually
The
fell.
Byzantine Empire, you mean?
Byzantine Empire, yeah, the Byzantine Empire, right?
Yeah.
Um, but I think they just, they changed form and they never really died. I mean, you can see it through all of Western architecture. It's all Greco-Roman, all
Mm.
government buildings, Greco-Roman.
And
It's
then,
always
something that a lot of people don't know is that even the statues that you see of Buddha, those are Greek. Those are Greek statues. They
really
the because
built.
Alexander the Great, when Alexander the Great conquered all the way to the Indus River Valley, he brought a lot of Greek culture, and the Indo-Greek kingdom and the Greco-Bactrian kingdom, they they were kingdoms where Greek was like a ruling language. Well, it was the language of the elites, and that's in modern day Afghanistan. Like this is that's where it is. So this is they had contact with the Buddhists, early Buddhists, and early Buddhists didn't depict Buddha at all. They depicted him, or they had an empty seat, they had an empty chair, and that was the Buddhist chair, and they also would use the symbol of his footprints, and that was it basically. And so the statues that you see, the beautiful statues of Buddha, actually came from Greeks who went to India. I mean, they may have been made by Indian people. It was just that the techniques of sculpture were brought from Greece to India.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that. Makes sense. The Greeks were, I would say, better builders at the time. They were better sculptors. Um, China had a bunch of interesting architecture back then, but they weren't really monument builders, I don't think. Why do you think they didn't build statues of Buddha themselves? Do you think it's because they didn't want to graven his image, or
Um, I think it was because, if you meet Buddha on the road, kill him, the kind of thing. The it, it's it's a symbol. It's a symbol of the emptiness of existence. Everything is essentially empty of anything, but it can be filled. You know, that was a big realization for me in life. I struggled a lot, and I was like, I thought, you know, everything is suffering. In this Buddhist context, I was thinking everything is suffering, and so what are we really doing here? Everything's empty, and it makes you, it kind of brings you into a feeling of meaninglessness. But then I realized, well, if a thing is empty, that means you can fill it with whatever you want. So you just have to choose, and you just have to fill it.
yeah, that's the. I think that's what the purpose of life is. I get into debates with people all the time about, what's the meaning of life, or what does God intend for humanity, or it's all God's purpose. It's all what God wants, and He wants us to be good. And but if that's true, then why is there all this evil? Why is there this suffering and this emptiness? So I came to the conclusion that why does God even want? Why would God even necessarily want or have an intention for us, except to have our own intention? That's what I think God's intention is that we have our own intention. As He has an intention, we have an intention, which is
Right.
generally to create. That's that's the most I can say about what God wants us to do, anyways, is to fill up that emptiness with whatever we so choose, whether that's good, bad. That's up to us. That's up to you. I don't think it's necessarily judged one way or another as being absolute evil or absolute good. I still believe in absolutes. Um,
Yeah, it's there. We've talked about this a lot personally, but other people have not heard it. That good and evil, to me, it's a false dichotomy.
it's a
There,
dichotomy.
it's like they're evil. The knowledge of good and evil is what made Adam and Eve fall from the garden. That means that the second that they started to perceive things as good and evil, like they said, that's evil, that's good, that was when they fell from the garden. If you choose not to look at things as good or evil, then you're returning to the garden. That's the state. That's the innocence. That's the state of innocence.
That's
Is
interesting.
is to not even regard, to not even judge whether a thing is good or evil. You just see it for what it is, and that's like one of the. It's like a Zen thing almost.
See, I never thought about that. It's a return to the Garden of Eden. That's a pretty good metaphor, because that whole the myth of creation in Genesis is that humanity was in a blind, blissful state of unawareness, but perfection and wholeness, and then fell down into earth and fell out of the garden through awareness of, I guess, duality, awareness of light and dark, awareness of, what was it, awareness of wrongdoing, right? Because that's what I think
Mm-hmm.
sent them out, was that they saw that they were naked. They saw um, the birds and the bees, but beyond that, it was they saw the naked reality, and they started forming judgments on it and criticizing, and just shut themselves out from the garden. So maybe the garden wasn't even physical in that sense, but more of a mental, intellectual garden of awareness.
Yeah, I mean,
Awareness. That's
I almost, and I can almost think about the garden as being like the womb. You know, The garden is like you come out of the womb and you've been pushed out of the garden because everything was perfect there. Like you were warm, you were secure, safe, happy. You had your mother there, so there was a powerful feminine energy that was taking care of you, you know, and like everything was done for you, and it was great. But you have to grow up, so you have to leave the garden. You have to leave the womb. You know, you can't stay there because you have other things you have to do. And one of these, I have one of these images that I'm just putting onto the stream now, is the similarity between the placenta, what the placenta looks like, and what a depiction of the tree of life is. And it says that as the umbilical cord connects an unborn baby to the placenta, the silver cord connects our body to the spirit, and thus the divine forces, the true source of life. When the umbilical cord is cut, we are born in this realm. When the silver cord is cut, the body dies and we are reborn in another realm. Like you leave the placenta behind, you know?
Yeah.
And that's okay. You leave the placenta behind. And when you die in this body is just another cocoon, another placenta. And there's a more advanced you that comes out. That's my opinion.
Yeah, so that's pretty crazy to think about, but I agree. And do you remember the placenta? Do you remember being in the room? I don't. I mean, I have an awareness of I was in a room. I was part of the placenta and all this, but right now, it's not like I have direct memories of it. So I think that's how when we die in this body, we might forget this life. We might forget our personality or whatever. Our personality might not necessarily live on in the same way. Maybe part of it, but we may just see our body now as we do being in the womb. So it's not going to be a big part of our next journey. It's going to be the next phase of our evolution, right?
Yeah.
So maybe we'll remember this life like a dream, like a passing dream in the next life or something like that.
Yeah. It's very we have a very fascinating world that is just full of all kinds of wonderful things to learn, you know? And I'm just grateful all the time out of all the gifts that we have. And I think that when it's important to think about these things when you're dealing with mourning and death. And my grandmother has just passed away, so this is what my mind is dwelling on. It's because you realize what the cycle is, or that there's a cycle and there's also a movement forward. Like a wheel is turning, but a tire will roll forward, So that's a big deal in a certain sense. It means that that all of the laws of physics actually do make a lot of sense, because nothing is ever created or destroyed. Not your consciousness either. It's people think that, like, oh well, the consciousness arises as a consequence of chemical interactions in a brain. But I think that the brain is just a receiver of the consciousness field, and it's the consciousness exists regardless. And when the body disconnects from the consciousness, then the consciousness is in a higher state.
Well, this is where fundamentals of physics right now is backwards, or it's got a key. It's misarranged.
Mm-hmm.
So modern physics tells us that consciousness is the end result of a long list of processes, physical processes. But it doesn't make any sense because we come up with the hard problem of consciousness. Like, okay, then how do we touch consciousness? How do we study it? How do we measure it? We can't. Where does it originate in the brain? We can't. We say it's, you know, it rises out of different synapses firing at once, and it's a conglomerate of our brain synapses interacting with each other. But okay, so you still can't pinpoint it. You can't say where the consciousness is. So then the idea of non-locality comes in, that, okay, maybe consciousness isn't tied to the brain. Maybe consciousness is in other parts of the body, or maybe it's in the whole body. Maybe it's outside the body. Maybe it's over the body. We can't friggin' make it tangible. So what the new science, which is being, you know, heavily subdued, is stating that the fundamentals of physics is wrong, and that consciousness is primary, consciousness is fundamental, and that consciousness comes first, and then physical reality follows after. So consciousness isn't the end result, it is the factor, it's the creating factor. And it makes sense to me, according to what my dad told me, is that you can't create something less, like a certain intelligence can't create something higher than itself. So if consciousness is the highest thing we know of, you know, awareness, self-awareness, the physicality that leads to it is lesser and can't lead to it. Logically, it can't lead to it. So the consciousness is logically fundamental, at least in my understanding. I might be mucking that up, but there is a whole slew of scientists and researchers right now, physicists, that are touching into this, and I think it's going to be an emerging science in the years to come.
Yeah, I definitely think so. It's very fascinating stuff. I'm pretty excited about what the future could hold. You know, I feel there's a lot of doom and gloom in the media. You know, they sell fear, and they sell pain and suffering, and like that's what. But screw all that, man. Fuck that. Who cares? The world is actually a beautiful place, and it's going to survive. The world is going to survive us. Whether we survive is the question. The world is, you know, we're not going to. We could possibly kill the entire world forever, but it's like, you know, we would probably kill ourselves before we did that. Before we got to that point. So it's like nature has the power, has all of the cards, and we're just a guest. We're just guests, and we need to think of ourselves that way, that we're guests upon the earth. You know.
Yeah, that's our test. That's our test as individuals and as a whole. Whether we make it past this is a crucial. We're at the crucible of our civilization. Whether we make it or break it, either we make it and we become a full-blown, you know, Type 1 spacefaring civilization, seeding the galaxy and stars, or we peter out and reset, and the next phase of conscious life comes onto Earth. I think, you know, we were talking about Earth earlier and the role of Earth. You know, Earth being like cordoned off and being nature reserve or wildlife reserve. Other races, other civilizations, higher civilizations throughout the universe and galaxy. I think we're a seed planet. We're a seed planet, and that's why we're well protected. It's because, you know, civilizations come here and they seed life. They experiment with life, they seed life. And the Elohim, the creators, whatever.
I actually think, you know, that there's something to that, even in terms of like maybe they would abduct couples, you know, like perfect couples. I've heard of some of this in alien abductions of couples being abducted, like a man and a woman both. Well, I mean, Betty and Barney Hill is the big one, but but they what if they were, what if we were the repository, we were just this, we were the, we're a source of labor and slaves, and we're a source of humans. Humans are a resource.
Yeah, the human slave, human trafficking goes beyond Earth.
Yeah, maybe it does. Maybe it does go beyond Earth. And maybe that's the scariest thing of all.
Yeah. Well, if we're not we're maybe the most dominant species on Earth, but look how we treat those under us. Like, look how we treat the hierarchy, the food hierarchy, and the dominance of the animal kingdom. I mean, we treat them like cattle, like animals. Who's to say there's not a higher civilization or beings or race that look at us the same way? Maybe they harvest us in a different way than we imagine. Maybe not necessarily as food, like physical food, but maybe for other reasons.
Mm. Yeah, I don't. They do harvest us in a certain sense, and the Bible says so too. I mean, that's the parable of the wheat and the tares, and whether it's an emotional thing. But think about this: like, you harvest humans in a certain sense too, in that you watch, like, if you watch Netflix, if you consume things that humans create, you're harvesting humans in a sense. But they are also like harvesting humans. They use us for entertainment and for labor, I guess. And
I think porn is a big human energetic harvesting.
Oh yeah, yeah. The field of pornography is definitely like a massive spiritual energy sinkhole. Like but someone's devouring, someone's receiving all that energy,
Yeah.
and also just like the vast amount of people that are jerking off to it, they're expending energy and putting it into that sinkhole.
Yeah.
Like it's all feeding into this whole big, like, gaping maw, like. So I always just wonder, is it a parasite or something, or like.
It's gotta be, yeah, a parasitic mind frame. I mean, physical, mental, spiritual, emotional. Like, it hits all the cores.
And well, and I want to say that I don't have any. I appreciate sex workers. They can do what they want to do. I'm a Nevadan, and I'm a pretty libertarian Nevadan. So Nevada is already pretty libertarian, and I'm even more so. So they can probably, as far as I'm concerned, they can do what they like, but but there is an energetic feeding process that is going on, from that. And there are people who are energy hungry. You'll meet these people sometimes. Psychic vampires, energy vampires. They're human beings, but they they thrive on drama and damage. They thrive on causing trouble.
Yeah, I've had a couple roll through my life. I had one roll through my life, and it's not pleasant. And they leave a sour energy wherever they go. Takes a while to dissipate. The mark they leave on people, they target, I guess. So, like, they don't necessarily target people; it's just who they are. I want to say, that's what a sociopathic being is. Not psychopathic; they're sociopathic. They're not able to feel empathy.
Yeah, yeah.
So they can justify doing all kinds of crazy acts to people. and turn it around on you, like you're the bad guy, and they're doing you a favor for fucking you over. They're the worst kind of people.
Yeah. Well, I think that we've had a great conversation today. We've had a great conversation today.
Yeah.
We're coming up on the 2 hour mark, so maybe we ought to wrap up. Do you have any finishing thoughts? I would like to. I'll definitely have you on the podcast again, because you and I we talk about basically all the same stuff. You know,
Yeah.
we study all the same stuff, so it's good to have someone to bounce your ideas around with. So
Yeah, maybe do a more focused show next time or something.
yeah, well, this one was kind of impromptu because we were just insomniacs.
Yeah. But yeah, I do. I just want to leave off on the note that people that know me online, anyways. I think a lot of people in our society, um, they don't realize the damage that porn does and the evil that it fuels and perpetuates. And I wish people would maybe just double check their habits on that and not always believe what
Yeah,
the crowd tells you.
it would be nice if people would love each other more and resort to porn less. But you can't force people to love each other.
No, and it's a struggle. I mean, daily life is a struggle. So keep on fighting.
Yeah. Well, you're fighting the good fight, brother, and it's good to see. Good to see you. And
All right,
you have a wonderful rest of your day, my friend.